and number reached Capitol Hill early Thursday morning that shifted the trajectory of everything that followed. Not the price of oil, not a stock market index, not a prediction market percentage, a different figure entirely. 31 American service members wounded at Al-Assad Air Base in a single Iranian ballistic missile salvo.
31 names, 31 families who received the call no military household ever fully prepares for, no matter how often they rehearse that possibility in private.
31 Americans in uniform who woke up Wednesday on a base that Iranian missiles have now struck twice in 6 years.
The White House held that number for 14 hours during which Caroline Leavitt described the president as steady and firmly in command. 14 hours during which J.D. Vance appeared on Fox News using language that tracked precisely with administration talking points. 14 hours during which 2 CNN journalists were reportedly detained while asking whether presidential strike authorization remained operational. 14 hours when the number finally reached Capitol Hill Thursday morning. It did not arrive through a formal White House disclosure. It was delivered by a Pentagon liaison officer carrying out the statutory obligation to brief congressional leadership on American casualties. The reaction that followed was not partisan in tone. It was institutional in character. Mitch McConnell received the casualty briefing at 7:43 a.m. McConnell has served in the Senate since 1985. He has been briefed on American losses in Beirut, Somalia, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria.
He has weathered political storms across 5 administrations. He has never publicly suggested that a presidential administration deliberately delayed casualty transparency.
He did on Thursday, not from the Senate floor, not before cameras, in a written statement released at 9:15 a.m., language his staff confirmed he personally drafted. It read, "The Senate expects complete and timely disclosure of information affecting the safety of American service members and the constitutional authorities of this chamber. 14 hours is not timely. 31 wounded Americans deserve better from their commander-in-chief." Mitch McConnell, Republican, Senate Minority Leader, architect of judicial confirmations central to Trump's governing legacy, stating that 31 wounded Americans deserved better. That was not routine criticism. That was structural strain. The Associated Press confirmed the casualty figure at 8:02 a.m., citing 2 Defense Department officials speaking on condition of anonymity. The AP 6-paragraph report became required reading across Capitol Hill before the 9:00 a.m. floor sessions began. Offices printed it, staff placed it on desks, senators and representatives read it in silence. The AP report included a detail not emphasized in the initial Pentagon liaison summary. 3 of the 31 wounded were classified as seriously injured. In military medical terminology, seriously injured does not mean minor concussive effects. It means wounds requiring surgical intervention, often involving significant blood loss, structural damage, or internal trauma. It means possible permanent disability. It means extended hospitalization. It means medical outcomes measured in months and years rather than days and weeks. 3 Americans facing surgical recovery paths that may redefine the remainder of their lives. The AP offered no analysis. It did not need to. The facts assembled into their own argument. Reporting from Baghdad by Al Jazeera added context not available to Washington correspondents. Iraq's Prime Minister, Mohammed Shia al-Sudani, summoned the American ambassador to the Foreign Ministry at 8:00 a.m.
Local time, summoning an ambassador is a deliberate act. Governments take that step when written diplomatic cables are insufficient.
According to Al Jazeera's sourcing from 2 Iraqi officials present, al-Sudani conveyed 3 messages. First, Iraq had not been consulted before U.S. military actions that used Iraqi territory in ways that drew Iranian retaliation onto Iraqi soil. Second, Iraq could not guarantee the continued presence of American forces at Al-Assad if those forces remained ballistic missile targets absent explicit Iraqi political authorization for
posture creating that risk. Third, Iraq was formally invoking consultation provisions under the 2008 Status of Forces Agreement. 3 statements, each one legally consequential, the Status of Forces Agreement, negotiated in 2008 during the George W.
Bush administration has governed the legal foundation of U.S. troops in Iraq through multiple presidencies.
Invoking its consultation clause is not symbolic, it is formal notice.
It records that Iraq believes American military actions affecting Iraqi sovereignty have occurred without required consultation.
American commanders at Al-Assad now operate in a facility whose host government has formally questioned the legal framework authorizing its use under current operational conditions. That does not mean an immediate evacuation. It means every operational decision from this point forward exists within a politically unstable legal environment.
Tim Kaine, ranking Democrat on the Senate Armed Services Committee, was the first to publicly connect the SOFA invocation to the war powers issue that has been building since Trump's Wednesday morning statement. Speaking outside the Senate chamber at 10:30 a.m., Kaine said the administration had failed simultaneously under multiple constitutional and legal obligations.
Failed to notify Congress in a timely manner regarding casualties, failed to consult with Iraq as required by treaty,
Failed to seek congressional authorization for military engagement that has now produced American injuries.
3 frameworks, 3 obligations, 1 morning convergence. The War Powers Resolution of 1973 requires the President to notify Congress within 48 hours of introducing U.S.
forces into hostilities or imminent hostilities. It further requires congressional authorization for military engagements extending beyond 60 days.
No formal War Powers notification has been transmitted. Not a briefing memo, not a classified outline.
A statutory notification. McConnell's reference to 14 hours was not only about disclosure speed, it was a signal that congressional leadership believed constitutional process was being bypassed.
The House responded quickly at 11:15 a.m. Mike Rogers, chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, called an emergency classified briefing for members.
Emergency briefings are not routine oversight tools. They occur when the chairman determines that the information imbalance between the executive and legislative branches is unacceptable.
42 of 50, 7 committee members attended, 15 did not. Their offices cited scheduling conflicts.
In a moment of active missile exchanges and escalating legal friction, scheduling conflicts carry interpretive weight.
By afternoon, Republican senators traditionally aligned with administration policy adopted more cautious tones.
Lisa Murkowski called for immediate classified briefings for all senators, raising concerns about transparency.
Susan Collins, chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee, described the 14-hour delay as unacceptable. Unacceptable from the lawmaker responsible for allocating defense funding.
Former Senator Jeff Flake told the Associated Press that the combined developments, casualty delay, reported journalist detentions, and situation room conduct represented a governance failure.
The First Order, these were not opposition party figures. They were institutional actors from within the governing coalition.
At 1:47 p.m., Al Jazeera's Washington correspondent reported a detail impossible to quantify but difficult to ignore.
3 Republican members exiting the classified House briefing declined comment, as required by security rules.
Each separately and without coordination shook their head. No statement, no leak, just a gesture.
In classified settings, nonverbal communication becomes the only permissible signal. 3 headshakes, independent of one another, functioned as their own summary.
While Congress processed constitutional dimensions, markets processed risk.
Brent crude held above $91 per barrel.
Not spiking wildly, not retreating, holding steady at a new baseline roughly $21 above pre-crisis levels.
A $21 premium across roughly 20 million barrels per day moving through the Strait of Hormuz equates to approximately $420 million in additional daily global cost.
Over 30 days, that becomes $6 billion, without a single barrel physically disrupted. Shipping amplified the pressure.
The Danish logistics giant Maersk rerouted vessels around the Cape of Good Hope. That detour adds roughly $1 million per vessel per voyage.
When Maersk moves, competitors follow. The benchmark shifts. Costs cascade through supply chains into consumer pricing structures.
Oxford Economics updated its modeling Thursday morning under a sustained tension scenario without full closure of Hormuz U.S.
CPI inflation could reach 8%. Under escalation, projections rise to 2%, 8.2% inflation in an economy where Trump campaigned on reducing elevated price growth.
Republican senators defending competitive seats in 2026 received those projections alongside casualty confirmation.
Political emotion fades, economic pressure persists. The White House response unfolded in stages. At the 11 a.m.
press briefing, Caroline Leavitt was asked 4 times about the 14-hour casualty delay. She referenced family notification protocols.
She deferred to the Pentagon. On the 4th question, specifically referencing the AP timeline, she ended the briefing.
Ending a briefing in response to a question communicates as clearly as an answer would have. At 2 p.m., President Trump convened select Republican senators in the Oval Office.
Not the most vocal critics, the undecided. The meeting lasted 94 minutes. Length matters. Extended Oval Office sessions typically occur when persuasion is still in progress.
One attendee later described the president's presentation as passionate, detailed, and sincere. Sincerity does not automatically produce alignment.
At 3:15 p.m., Tim Kaine filed a formal War Powers Notification request with the Senate Foreign Relations Committee.
That procedural step transforms grievance into legislative motion. If advanced and passed, the administration would be legally required to seek authorization within 60 days or withdraw forces.
Republicans hold narrow chamber majorities. 3 Republican senators have already publicly used the word unacceptable. 1 wounded.
3 seriously injured. A host nation invoking treaty consultation provisions. A war powers clock beginning to tick.
Oil holding above $91. Inflation projections at 2%. Congress does not move on rhetoric alone. It moves when numbers converge.
Thursday was the day those numbers converged in the same briefing folders, on the same desks, at the same hour.
And once numbers align, institutions follow.